So tonight, yeah, John is going to give you a big picture, and I want to tell you the reason I'm motivated for this. Guys, we've got a lot going on in Pakistan. We've got a lot going on around the world. And Pastor Asif, who has been here for 3 years plus now, 4 years already. Do you guys have microphones, by the way? Okay. Yeah, okay, you can tell them all the details. But because of the fact that Asif spends most of his time teaching pastors and leaders all over the world by Zoom in Urdu and Punjabi, he spends so much time in his own native languages that he has not learned to speak English. And so I want to put him in front of you. I want him to teach. I want him to preach. I want him to be in front of this congregation, because I know, for example, when you get excited about what Luis Lopez is doing or Emma Hay is doing, there's a sense in which we get behind these ministries, and the Asian missions is kind of in the backside of that because you don't get exposed to it, because what he's doing is not really for us so much as it is for people all around the world. And so I wanted to have a special night when we could actually have John translate. And I will come up and translate John afterwards. But I wanted them to share what's going on because there's so much happening. And the ministries, the people you're teaching online, the hundreds and hundreds of people that are influenced as leaders that then influence thousands. And it's incredible. And I think that we should get behind this in a greater way. And so I wanted to have them come. And so I'm going to just sit down, go sit and enjoy my bottle of water and let you guys have fun. Does that sound fair enough? All right. Thank you, guys. Welcome, John Leffler, Asif Arthur, Pastor Asif. We're glad you guys are here. All right.
Talked a lot when we do a persecution update on the fourth Sunday of every month about how I really believe this is a time for little people to do great things. And little people do great things simply because they are obedient and faithful to what it is the Lord wants them to do. I have a book on my library shelf of the unknown righteous from the Holocaust, those Gentile people who helped Jews during the time of the Holocaust, but didn't get as much fame as a lot of other people did. And this is a little sidebar to illustrate this, and then we're going to jump into the fact that this whole issue of Candlelight, Pakistan actually began back in the 1930s. If you can imagine that. But I'd like to tell you about Catherine Locke, because this was a little person whom I ran into in the 1990s. Asif never knew her. Three of us here in the church did. My wife and Herb Schaefer's around here tonight, somewhere around. There he is, okay. And it was good that we talked about her because he reminded me of some things. She was a nurse who retired at age 65 in Denver, Colorado. And when she retired from her profession, she decided she wanted to do something to help the Lord, to serve him, right? Now, ordinarily you think, I'll go down to this place, or I'll go down to that rest home and help these people, or maybe the homeless or something. Oh, no. She decided her mission was to the Kurds in northern Iraq during the time of Saddam Hussein. Now, this was a very dangerous thing for her to do. And what she would do is she would sneak into northern Iraq, because that's Kurdistan. Even today, the Kurds are holding it, even though it's technically part of Iraq. And she would sneak into northern Iraq either through Syria or through Turkey, sometimes in the dead of night, sometimes being ferried across rivers to get her around the guards. And she would work among the Kurdish people. I found out about her because she would bring children back that needed surgery, that were really, they had been born deformed or whatever happened, and she would set it up. She would arrange for the money with the State Department to get them into the country. She found doctors and nurses to do the surgery pro bono, and also then she ran into me, and we started promoting what she was doing on the radio show. And so what we would do is we would raise the money for the transport to get her to fly the kids here. One of them, unfortunately, Amir, was 19 years old. I still remember his name today. And he was trying to get across the border from Iraq into Turkey, and he was shot by a border guard, and it hit him in his jaw, and it tremendously disfigured his face. So she managed to get him back to the U.S. for surgery. He died during the forced surgery, and so that was one of the losses. But in other cases, it succeeded, and some of the Kurdish Muslims who were Sunnis came to Christ because of seeing her example, and even those that didn't left her alone. And finally, one day, we were sitting doing an interview on the show, trying to raise some money, and I looked at her because by now she must have been in her, you remember, she started at age 65, and she must have been in her mid-70s by that time, and I finally looked at her and said, Catherine, doesn't your age get to you? You know, and she looked at me, and she had that smart little look on her face, you know, that dynamic women often have. And she says, oh, I can be an old woman when I have to be. And the reason this came up, and Herb was reminding me of why this was, I think she was trying to get from Turkey into Iraq, and the border guards were making a big hoo-ha about this. And she finally exploded at them. And you remember, this is Islamic culture, right? And here's this woman, she goes, but what they didn't know, by the way, is she had about $50,000 strapped to her body in $100 bills she was bringing in for medical work among the Kurds, right? And she goes, what do you think I am? I'm an old woman. Just leave me alone. I'm not carrying bombs and guns. What's wrong with you? You know, and of course, and they bought it. I mean, they just weren't used to hearing a woman talk to them like this, much less, you know, an elderly woman, as you can see, you know, from the picture here, doing very dangerous things. So that's my encouragement. And when she got to be 80, she said, dear Lord, please give me another 10 years to serve you. And he did. She died in her 90s, you know. So that was it. Now, our story begins about another story of faithfulness in the 1930s. There was a carpenter in the mountains of Romania. You just get to listen here for a minute, okay? Good enough. In the mountains of Romania, there was a carpenter who was praying, dear Lord, before I die, let me bring one Jewish man, one of your chosen people, to faith in Christ. And into this village one day wanders a hot-headed, not really practicing Jew by the name of Richard Wormbrand. And Richard Wormbrand accepted Christ. Many of you know the story from there on in that he became a Lutheran pastor. He's a Jewish man, becomes a Lutheran pastor. They had to deal with the situation in the Holocaust. Romania wasn't hit as bad as the other countries were. And then, as soon as the Marxists came in, he opposed Marxism, and he went to jail for 14 years, and he was in prison for solitary confinement for 8 years. And his wife was in for, I can't remember, 6, 8 years, something like that. Which was interesting is when the men got thrown in jail, the women took over running the church. He said that was what we had to do. He became a Lutheran pastor because at the time, he said there were only two games in town, Orthodoxy and Lutheranism. So that was the direction that he went. And if you ever want to read his story, just read the book Tortured for Christ. There's a movie. We screened it here at one time in Candlelight. And his wife's book is even, we think it's better, my wife and I do. It's called The Pastor's Wife, and she talks about what it was like to be a wife and servant in this time. And the way we came in contact with it is that the church we were at the time, Richard Wormbrand came to speak, and we heard him speak, and we were trying to get our radio show going, and we were poor as church mice. I mean, we couldn't rub two nickels together. Things were so tight, and we had 3 little kids. And here's, you know, stupid John trying to do what we thought the Lord had called us to and get a radio show going. And Carol was standing at the book table in the back, and Sabina Wormbrand's right opposite her. And Carol's looking at the book, and she thinks, I'd like to read this book. I really want to read this thing, but we just can't afford it. And for reasons unknown to us, Sabina looks at Carol, hands her a book, and says, you need to read this book, and just gives it to her for free. Now, whatever the Spirit did there, I don't know. 3 months later, the Wormbrand's were back, and do we have a picture? And for 2 hours, I interviewed them on the radio. Okay. Shh. It makes me less macho. And this changed my life. The man who took this photo sold all their investment properties and went to live on his boat in Florida, but it was a cheap way to live, and became a traveling emissary for Voice of the Martyrs, would go into different countries to prove that there was, especially in Cambodia, and he went into Iran to prove what was going on with the churches there at great danger. And so what's my point of this whole thing? Because of the carpenter being faithful to the Lord, who brought Wormbrand to the Lord, who has done much for the persecuted church, and because he talked to me, then what happened after that is one night in November, about 8 years ago, Carol and I had started a Facebook page called Praying for Persecuted Christians. And we get this text message from somebody we don't even know in Thailand, in Bangkok, Thailand at the time, who says he's a pastor, and all he asked for was prayer. And he said they hadn't eaten in 3 days, and they had 3 little kids, and they were sleeping in, where was it? In the lobby of an apartment. Yeah, you have to talk into that.
That time we was sleep in the lobby in the apartment, and after 3 days, our owner to kick us from the condo, and we go to the hotel side, and we have no any space in the hotel because we have no money for hire the room. So that's why we are sitting the outside in the road. So same time, so one of my friend, Thai friend, give me a old phone, and because many Pakistani peoples have Facebook, they find donors, they find the peoples from the online for Facebook, say hi, hello, how are you? We are so and so, and they're fundraising sometime, the people donate for them. So he give me advice, this cell phone, you can contact with your Facebook friends, maybe they can help you. So when I open my Facebook, so that time, so I don't know who's a Carol Leffler. We have no any mutual friend that time. And when I opened my Facebook, so I saw the Carol Leffler. I click on her Facebook and open the messenger and start a chat at the same time. And she asked me many questions. Who are you? Where you live? And I use only one word. We are asylum seekers. We are refugees. We are in suffering. She said, where are you from? I'm in suffering. We have a lot of problems. Where are you from? I said, we are in Thailand, and we are from Pakistan. I'm working. When I was in Pakistan, I'm working as a pastor, but by the persecution from the extremists, so we moved from Pakistan to Thailand. Right now we are in Thailand. She says, okay. So then I introduced myself and my family. I sent her this picture at the same time. So that time my children is very small. And my baby, small baby, she was only 4 months. 4 months when I leave my country. So this is when I share my old testimony. So then, same time, she said, if you want, may I help you with $300? I said, this is a big amount. Maybe 200, 100 be okay. She said, okay. So right, same time she sent me money. Same time. This is a big...
Okay, my turn.
Yes.
At the other end of the Facebook Messenger, Carol calls me and shows me the message, right? And I said, well, who is this guy? Well, I don't know. Is this a scam? Because a lot of scams come out of Pakistan and Nigeria and places like that, right? And we prayed about it, and I said, all right, here's the deal. Let's send him some money. If it's a scam, that's between them and the Lord. They can account to him on Judgment Day, okay? For us, it's between us and him. We're responding. So we did, and that started the relationship. Okay.
Yes. When she sent me money, I said, sister, it's 100% true. $300, this is a big amount for me in this country because our rent is only like $1,500 bath, I think maybe $50 per month. So if I need my groceries, so I need only 100, 150, be okay. But if I spend my luxury life, then 300 be okay. So, but I need a $120 and $50 be okay for me. But this be true if you want to spend my luxury life, then be 300 be okay. She said, okay, go ahead, no problem. So after few weeks ago, after few week, and she again contact with me and she said, some of my friend give me a 200 for you. I said, no, no need. Next month be okay, not this month. So then we start our friendship. Now we completed 10 year, almost 10 year we have friendship. And after 6 months, Brother John contact with me on Facebook, and he sent me a request and accepted. And he said, if you want, so you can work. If you want to work as a pastor, so I have one church here, Candlelight, and I can discuss with Pastor Paul.
Okay, so that's where, we had been sending money over on a regular basis. We'd had the relationship going, but I was still a little uneasy about it because, well, Carol and I are fanatics about doing things right. So that's where we contacted Pastor Paul, and we had a member of our church, Jim. What was Jim's last name? No, from Phuket. Jim Baldwin. Okay, Jim was building one of these big hotels in Phuket, which is a tourist area in Thailand, and we called him and said, can you send a pastor up to Bangkok to check these people out to see if he's really real and we're not being schnookered here? So he did. And I remember a conference call at 1 o'clock in the morning, our time, getting up in bed and going, it's 1 o'clock, to do this, and everything. And then I hired a CIA retired operative to investigate him. I mean, he didn't know this was all going on.
I don't know.
So, and finally, the relationship had grown. Oops, I'm sorry. And I said, then I figured, okay, it's really time that Pastor Paul needs to go over to meet them, right? And so I'm thinking, well, all right, put your thinking hat on. How do you get Pastor Paul to go to Thailand? That's halfway around the world, and he's got responsibilities here and everything. And after thinking about it, I got it. Okay. I will tell him he can go to Phuket and worship his Holy Trinity, sand, sun, and surf. Okay. So Paul and Brenda were off to Phuket for a few days and then up to Bangkok, which is where we solidified the relationship. Now, this is where it got interesting because this is where Asif's ministry resumed. He'd been doing ministry in Pakistan. And so you were doing Bible studies in the hallways of apartments with the Pakistanis who were there.
Yes. I was started different ministries in different part of the Bangkok, and we started home churches over there. Even that days, we have a lot of problems. We are facing a lot of problems because if you have a Pakistani passport and you're living in Bangkok without visas, and even you're a rich man, even you have a lot of money, but police can arrest you anytime and send in the jail because you have no visa. So we always have a problems over there, but I deny. I said no problem because God chose me for his peoples. So that's why I start my ministry and different condos, different areas, because in that days many fake missionaries like Mormons and other fake
Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, they're very active in these areas.
Lot of activities over there because they spend the money and they they give them the room rents and for our peoples. So that's why God gave me a vision. I start church without any fear. So
then everything what happened is there were political changes in Thailand. The king of Thailand died, and there's usually a period of a year of mourning. So they put up a picture of the king of Thailand, which everybody did, so the police would look kindly upon them. But also, what happened was a major scandal broke in the English language Bangkok Post. And what it turned out was that the Thai police all over the country were taking millions of baht a month in bribes from foreign nationals, and I don't mean just Pakistanis, Americans, Canadians, Europeans,
Everyone.
Brits, everyone, to be left alone, even though they're illegal, to be able to live in Thailand, and so the police are on the take. Well, it just hit, it hit the fan. And there were mass roundups going on, especially of Christian Pakistanis everywhere. And by this time, they were living in fear. And Amelia can still tell you today how she gets bothered by. Do you want to talk about it, Amelia? when she hears police sirens, because that meant there's another raid coming on the hotel, on their apartment, and they had to flee from one building to the other, and then the police detained you first.
Yes.
Okay.
They arrested me on 2nd December 2015, and I spent 3 days a night in jail. But thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, first of all, and I'm thanks to all of you that Candlelight Church support me, and they released me from the jail.
And what I couldn't figure out when he was in jail, they left him there with his cell phone. They don't do that in this country. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out, why did they leave him with his cell phone when he's in jail? There's another thinking cap moment, right? I got it. They want him to pay the bail fee. Money.
Money. Money. If you are in jail, you just pay money. Even if you have cigarette pack, you can give them. If you match, you can give them. And then you can use a phone. Per hour, 1 hour, if you want to use 1 hour, you give the 20 baht, like $2 or $3. So you can use it anytime.
So anyway, there were widespread raids. At one point, they had about 700 or 800 men, women, and children, Christians, at the Immigration Detention Center. I don't know if we had a picture of this or not. It's called the IDC. Everybody knows what it is. And they were packed in there so tightly, they couldn't all sleep at the same time because there just wasn't enough place to lie down. So we figured, what is it we can do? And so what Asif and Shakila did, Shakila all night long, Thursday nights, I remember that it was always a big thing, cooked about 70 kilos of food. That's about 150 pounds of food overnight. Now remember, they're living in a one-room apartment with a bath. 6 and a balcony.
6 by 6 room, and the same size. We have a kitchen in the same room, same washroom. Sister Brenda and Pastor Paul visit to us in my room. So same room.
So anyway, they would cook that, and then they would get people who could legally go into the Immigration Detention Center to bring. We couldn't feed everybody, but they would just pick who they thought was really in bad shape. And they also brought in sanitary napkins for the women, diapers for the babies, in some cases medicine.
Yes.
Right. If we knew somebody needed prescription medicine, we made arrangements to bring that in. It did make the BBC News, so it was a really bad. They did an expose by sneaking somebody in with a button camera that the cops didn't catch when they went in. And there was a Catholic monk, Brother Bernard, wasn't it?
Bernard, yes.
Yeah, he spent almost his entire life ministry doing nothing but helping the people in IDC. That was it. So
yes.
So do we have pictures of that, Carol? Yeah, there we are.
Yes.
And this was.
Yes, this one.
This was the thing on Brother Bernard. We don't have any audio, I don't think, but
I feel
anyway,
we have to do something.
Okay.
To change.
That's who the guy was, and he finally got cancer and had to go back. I think he was from Italy and had to go back to Italy for treatment. And they had somebody else come out in his place. So anyway, what else did you do before we move on and talk about? When it got really bad, I finally called Asif and I said, "You can't stay there. This is just nonsense. Every time you turn around, you were detained."
After 5 years.
Okay, and you were detained by another couple of policemen.
Yes.
Because
gets detained.
They were detained.
Yes.
Okay, but one of the policemen was a Christian.
Yes.
And he let you go, and he said, "Go back to where you came, the building you came from. You're safe."
Yes. Another time, I was in the market for shopping, and behind on me and Shkila and kids are arrested. And at that time, I have one Bible in Thai language and English language, both language, in my room. One of the Christian policemen come with other police peoples. So when he saw, this is a Bible, you are Christian? Yes. Shkila said, yes, I'm Christian. So my husband is pastor, so we are living here. He said, okay, so okay, you go quickly from here. You left this area and go to another area. Go. So at the same time, I contact with Brother John, and I said, Shkila and Chris are arrested. So they said, okay, oh my gosh. So, okay, how much you need money? I said, 50,000 baht. So he said, okay, that day is very bad day in United States, in Cotaline, when you go to outside for send me the money.
If you ask me for 50,000 baht, it's a bad day. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yes. So, no, windy and snow, lot of snow that day.
Yeah.
And so he immediately.
we were running off generator. That was, remember the snowstorm that was the big heavy
Yes.
that put out power everywhere. We're running off a generator and still trying to do our work
Yeah.
for our clients.
So they're going to send me money from the Western Union. So same time, Shkila called me. We are come back home. I'm like, why? How you come back? He said, because he was Christians, that's why he released us free of cost. So he said, you left our area and go back to another area, you go. So I called to Brother John, no need money. He said, this is a big miracle. So this is happening with us.
So finally I said to him, we can't leave you there in Thailand while we figure out how to get you. See, all this time we're trying to figure out how we get him out of this bad situation, which is what's happening with a lot of asylum seekers, largely Pakistani Christians who are hiding in Thailand. They can't go anywhere else. On a Pakistani passport, because of the terrorism problem, you can't go very many countries. You can't just show up at the border like U.S. citizens can show up in Latin America or Europe, places like that, and just say you can get a 6-month auto visa, you know. And so I said, can you go back to Pakistan, to some place where the people who were trying to kill you don't know where you are? Reminds me of the flight into Egypt. Go down there until the people who were trying to kill the child are dead, you know, who are gone. And so he said, yes. And so we got the money and flew them back to Pakistan. And I won't say where, but...
Yes, after 5 years, we left Thailand and go back to Pakistan, and church started to support me and Brother John, Pastor Paul, Sister Brenda contact with me, and I was arranged my home on rented in executive area in Islamabad. Islamabad is our capital city, like your Washington D.C. So the mostly diplomatic people living over there. The poor people cannot stay over there, and because executive that area is very safe for us. So that's why we arrange a home on rented, and we spent 2.5 years.
Right,
in
and
Islamabad.
they were in a gated middle-class Muslim community, and we figured his enemies in Lahore will never think to look for him there. And at the time that happened, then we went to Paul and said, okay, it's time to do something about bringing him into the United States. And so we went to see an attorney. Actually, we quizzed a couple of them. But finally, we sat down, and they told us exactly everything we'd have to go through, decided that we probably don't want to do this as a refugee. Let's bring them in as religious workers. You're setting up a ministry, that'll be good. It's an R1 visa. And we go, what's that? And she told us everything we were going to have to go through. I think we filed about 300 pages of documentation, and it was something like $10,000 or $15,000 in legal fees and government fees and whatever. And she gets to the end of this, and I'm sitting there sort of like this, and I go, you don't happen to know the going price for coyotes nowadays, do you? Maybe we'll just walk them across the border in the South. What do you think? Seems to work for everybody else, you know. She said, well, if you do that, we were all laughing. She said, if you do that, that's going to wreck their chances for being legal. So that started 24 months of legal work where Pastor Paul and we had to fill out all this documentation and work with the attorney. And we didn't think it was going to happen. We didn't think that this was going to go through. But they went to the interview at the American Embassy, and all the other 4 families were turned down. And
All of them is rejected. So when we went to the embassy, United States embassy,
You took yourself up there.
yeah, sorry. When we went to the in 2021, so April 12th of April 2021, we went to the embassy, and we are only 5 families to forego to the interview, and really it's 100% true. We don't know when he start our interview and when he finish our interview, because we are thinking we need a interpreter, because our lawyer, Ember Jones, told us you arrange your interpreter because they can provide you. So we can, I said, okay. So when they call us on the table in front of the immigration officer, visa officer, he said, your name is, what is your name? Because I was totally confused that time. I said, you can read on paper. You can read it. My name is Asif. He said, okay. So why you want to go United States? I said, brother, you can read all paper very carefully. He said, no. Why you go United States? I said, yes, you can read. I understand what you say. You can read it. Because my church invite me as a pastor, so that's why I'm going. So what you will do in United States? I said, I'm working as a pastor. No, your pastor is American pastor or Pakistani pastor? I said, he's American pastor. So why you go? I said, I'm working, you can read, sorry, you can read it, please. He says, okay. So I can ask some questions, your wife? I go, yes. So he said, Shakila, what is your name? She said, Shakila. So you want to go with your husband freely? She said, yes. Good. So where is your son? Zimran. I said, he's in the washroom. It's okay. Shakila went to washroom and called Zimran. Then when Zimran come, then Anna go. When Anna go, come, and Amelia go in washroom again. So 4 times he called us again. After that, he said, welcome to the United States.
Yeah.
I said, wow.
Yeah.
So, but when he said, welcome, I said, okay, I'm trying to give him my document, because I have a 300 pages document.
300
I
pages,
said,
yeah.
brother, you don't want to take my interview and you don't need my documents? He said, no, Pastor, you are welcome to the United States. You prove my visa? I said, yes, but you didn't give me any paper, any proof. He said, I already gave you. Because he was giving me, but I put in my pocket, I forgot. I said, no, you don't give me any document. Then he gave me paper again. He said, Pastor, you are welcome to the United States. I said, okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
So I remember the day they got here, and I'm sure we've got that photo. There we are.
Yes.
They had been on a 13-hour flight from Dubai. Was that?
No, Doha.
Doha, right. Okay, from
14 years.
Yeah.
14
14
hours.
hours? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And I remember driving home. The men got in one car and the women got in the other. And we passed the women parked on the side of the freeway. Shakila was throwing up. I guess the nervous tension was so bad on her that, and we go by like this. That was Shakila and Mom and Carol. And, what are they doing? All right, we need to move on. We'll talk a bit about what we've done and then where we are with the church, because we're going to run short of time if we don't. So some of the things you do. He does a Zoom meeting every Thursday morning at 6 a.m.
In 2021, in the month of August, we started our Zoom meeting online church for Pakistani people, because our many Pakistani people living in different countries as refugees in Thailand, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, and Nepal. So we start a Zoom meeting for them, because mostly people cannot speak English, they can not understand local languages. So that's why we started a church for them. So with 5 to 10 people, now about 200 people, and we preach the gospel. And now we start we find some pastor from different countries. So we teach them and preach them. And after 1 year, into 2022, we start a woman ministry. And now Shakila started, and every Saturday we are going to arrange a woman ministry and sharing the gospel. And we invited many different guests.
Now, some of the other things that we've done, there was one woman, Christian woman, who was very, very ill. She was in her late 20s. She'd been raped by one of the guards there, remember, and she needed just to get out of IDC. And at the time, the Thai government, if you paid the bail, they'd let you out on your own recognizance. If you left the country, they'd give you the bail money back, as long as you paid your exit fines. So it would work. So we got her out. And what are some of the other things that we've done for?
Yes. Not only one, even two. Right. One of the young girl, she was arrested and she spent 2 years in jail. And maybe some people remember that, Pastor Paul announcement here, because she was raped by the police in jail. So immediately, with your help, Pastor Paul approved money, and we sent her $2,000 and released them from IDC. And one of the old lady near to the death in jail. So we send the money, $2,000 again, and release her. And we every year's 2 times in Easter and Christmas we send up food packages in Thailand and Malaysia, and we distribute a food package in refugee and asylum seekers.
Right. And after the riots, if you
yes,
remember, yep.
She was raped by the police.
Is that the lady?
Yes.
Okay.
Her name is Imrana.
And after the riots a year ago, where somebody was accused of blasphemy, and it just cut loose again in Pakistan, there were at least 14 people killed, 50 churches burned down, 300 homes destroyed. And it got so bad that the Catholic bishop of, was he a cardinal?
Cardinal.
Cardinal Archbishop of Pakistan went to the government and said, we Christians have never, ever burned down a single mosque. You're going to stop this or we're going to make trouble for Pakistan worldwide. And that's when they began having security forces show up to try to put down the riots and stop what happened. But what we did here is then we had to send supplies in for people whose homes had been destroyed. They'd lost everything. Just like in the the California wildfires, same deal, you know. And so we provided that. Pastor Zanab took that in. I'm trying to think of some of the other things that we've done.
Yeah, we distribute a food package. We distribute a cloth and shoes for old ladies, and shoes and cloth for old ladies and old men, and children's, and distribute a food package in different areas. And there people are living without a roof in the village side.
So, and you arranged the tour for Emma Hayden and,
yes.
her group,
yes.
Got arranged for the government security. They're very careful about that for Christian speakers coming in. They can't afford to have them get murdered because of the international repercussions, and so they will do it. And what's ironic is all these guards are Muslims, but you know it's illegal to proselytize in Pakistan. But because they have to stand there and provide security, they yes. get to hear the gospel, you know, because they're attending a Christian meeting. So that happened. And I guess building the church is the sewing center.
Yes.
The other problem in Pakistani culture is that women are very subservient to the men. So much so they tend to walk behind the men. We still run into this in the house all the time in the kitchen, where Shakila automatically steps back. It's just a cultural thing. As a matter of fact, I was walking with her at Walmart one day, and I'm talking to her walking along like this, and all discovered she's nowhere to be found, and she's behind me. And I said, "Would you stop that? You know, I'm talking to the air. This isn't Pakistan. You know, walk with me." Okay, so the women are subservient. If their husbands die, get killed in one of these riots or just die or become incapacitated, the family's in a bad way. And so the sewing center, one member here at Candlelight's been supporting that, is we've been buying sewing machines, teaching the women how to sew so they can run a little cottage industry out of their home. The goal is to try to help them make themselves self-sustaining, not always with the handout for, But I remember living in, you live in many of the poor Islamic countries, and
Yes.
the kids are always running after you yelling bakshish, they want money. So the sewing center. But now we have the church. Oh, brick kilns. Thank you for putting that up, Carol. The dilemma with the Christian people that work in the brick factories there, even children. I mean.
Yes. So we are going to build a church for unprivileged people, especially for brick workers. So we are distribute audio Bibles through this church, through your sport.
A lot of these people are illiterate.
Yes.
They can't read Urdu. So,
Yeah. So
audio
that's
Bibles.
why audio Bibles we distribute, like about to 2,000 audio Bibles we distribute, and we spent about to $10,000 to $15,000 within to 2022 or 2023 to 24.
Right. So this is a $70,000 project. And we have some diagrams. Let's see, we have a picture, first of all, if we can get up, of what the projected church will look like. She's trying to find it on Presenter, which is a major challenge. Anyway, it'll be a 3-story structure, and we're going to have to build this as we manage to collect funds for it. Is that where they've started? Or?
Yeah, we already started.
We already started, okay. So they're starting that, and then
This building.
this is sort of what it'll look like when it's done on the front facade, and going from there. So that's the goal we have right now. And also the other thing we've been doing is when families get refugee status, either in the U.S. or Canada, we've been paying some of it's really weird. You get arrested in Thailand if you're foreign without a visa. You may get thrown in the immigration detention center, and instead of just deporting you, they insist that you pay the fines before they allow you to leave the country. It's a really bizarre system. But what we have done in a couple of cases is for families who have been approved, we've paid, it's usually for a family of 5 about $1,800 U.S. in exit fines that you have to do, even if they have sponsorship. The State Department will help with certain monies if you're officially a refugee, but they won't pay the exit fines. So you have to find
Just
somebody
pay for your tickets.
They just pay for the air tickets and everything else. So we've had different, and we have another family ready to go. Is it the 19th of February? So
13
February. Okay, we need another $1,800, so that's what we're looking for. Anyway, anything else we need to say? So what's it with the church? Do you have the diagrams, Carol? Maybe Asif could talk about it. Here, I'll give you the pointer. Let me see if this thing's working. There it is. You can also tell what temperature it is on the screen. So. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, it's 3 floors, so what happens on the...
We are teaching outside on the table. So really, we appreciate all of you, and we are very grateful to you for your support, for your love, and for your prayer. And we going to build this church for underprivileged peoples, and we need a $17,000. This is not a big deal. This is not a big amount for all of you, because we can contribute together and we can build a church soon, because our people need this church building, because underprivileged, they have no any opportunity going to church. But I thanks to Pastor Paul and Elder Board especially, who approved, and we last year we spent a lot of money, like above to $25,000. We purchased a property, and now we are going to build a church. So that's why in the same building we have 3 projects. One on ground floor we have a church hall like this one, and with a gallery, and a total capacity of 400 people. They can sit inside. And before we run a church, last 3 years continue on renting building. So now we are a church, our own building. So we request it to you, and we have a table outside, and you can online, you can donate for this purpose. We need a 17,000. Now, last month we started work, but now it's stopped because we have no money. So we have to make a contact with the contractor. So that's why we need urgently 70,000. So we request all of you, please, you remember that project in your prayer. And also you can support for us online, Candlelight Christian Fellowship, Pakistan, and it will be helpful for all of us. Thank you so much.
So the other thing too, if a prayer thing before we take questions, and that is his green card's been approved. They can't move on the Shaquille and the kids until he gets his green card. The problem is under the Biden administration, R1 or religious workers green cards used to be streamlined by the State Department. A lot of churches depend on these here in the United States, and they're complaining because what they did under the Biden administration, our attorney was pretty upset when it happened, took all the religious workers and dumped them into the main bin with everybody else, which puts them in a giant queue of, and they only issue so many green cards a year. There was proposed legislation to get this back where it was again, and we need to do that because we're running up against the clock on their current visas, which creates even, I will say this much. I do believe in border security, okay, but our system is really broken. Who can the amount of money and time and documentation and everything you have to do this. I come from families of immigrants. My father was an immigrant from Italy. And so I really do believe we're a country of immigrants. But they've made it so difficult now. It's insane. And it show you how weird it is. When he went to Canada, it was another visa process. We had to spend about 4 hours on the computer filling out all this information for the Canadian government and get him biometrically identified, etc. He finally goes in there, and then he flies after Toronto, flies to Vancouver. And so he's there with the Canadian Pakistanis, and they decide to come down to Bellingham, Washington for breakfast. And they just show up at the border and wave their Canadian IDs. All he did was show them his Idaho ID. And the guy says, okay, off you go. Say hi to George, that type of thing. Just the ID. There was no question, no paper. And then going back, it was pretty simple. Did you have to show your passport going back in? No. See, going back into Vancouver there. But when he gets on the plane to fly to Seattle and Spokane to come home, then all of a sudden you're back into this mill again. So the whole thing's a mess right now. It truly is. And I'm hoping the Trump administration can get it worked out. But you might pray with us that they get this whole green card system worked out for religious workers. So,
whenever I get my green card, with your support, with your prayer, I will go to the Thailand, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia, because God gave me a burden for sharing the gospel in different countries as evangelist. And because Saudi Arabia, you know very well about Saudi Arabia. Over there, no people have a church, no church building, no anything, and they start home churches. So they invited me in Saudi Arabia when God help us, and I will get my green card as soon as possible. Then I will go.
Do they have other Pakistanis in Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
Are they workers or what?
Workers.
They're workers? Okay.
Workers.
Yeah, and you can't evangelize in Saudi Arabia.
I can.
Well,
No.
well yeah. I think you'd
I
evangelize.
can everywhere. In Urdu language.
Yeah. Paul, what do you want to do? Should we take questions or? Here, do me a favor. Let me give you mine.
Sure. Okay, cool. Thank you. Hello. My name's Jackson. I am an incredibly devout follower of Christ, and you really caught my attention, I mean, the entire time for sure, but towards the end there when you mentioned your mission trip towards Saudi Arabia, I myself have a degree in Arabic, language and cultural studies. I'm fluent in like traditional and like some dialects, not like Gulf Arabic, but I'm fluent in Arabic. Do you need any additional help in terms of going over there and taking like other like language speakers?
What type of help you want? Yeah.
What type of what? I'm sorry.
What type of help? What do you mean?
Well, because I myself just entirely and fully, I would like to help in the sense of just bringing anyone and everyone to Christ, to evangelize like you.
Yes.
So
My
if,
answer is yes. When
Yeah?
we go, I will call you.
I don't have a phone right now. I have an email address. I'm living a very 1990s period of life right now. But yeah, I would love to talk to you more. And my living situation right now is not stable by any definition of the word. But I have the love of Christ in my heart, and I just follow the Holy Spirit. And that's why I even right towards the end there, when you mentioned Saudi Arabia, I thought to ask that question.
What was your name?
My name's Jackson. I came here today to talk to Paul, to you. I know. He said to refer to himself as Joey Patocci. He's an Italian guy.
Me?
Well, yeah. He said he knows you and say something about I don't know.
Joey.
Yeah. No, Joey.
Patafio. Joey Patafio.
Yeah. Because
All right.
I
Who's handling the mic down here? Dave?
Oh,
Jackson's not, or Jason's not here, so. Dave, you handle the mic. Don't worry about it, John. You might have to answer
Okay.
questions.
Anyways,
So
yeah.
We'll pass this mic around and listen. We'll
Yeah, for
talk
sure.
afterwards then.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to talk to both of you as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Thank you for your offer to help, for sure. It's great. Okay. So other questions? Anybody raise your hand? Shane will try to get to you. We're a little short-staffed here tonight, it looks like. Questions about the mission, about what they're doing. We'll talk about this a little bit more next week as well at the business meeting, which will happen here exactly 1 week from now. So, any questions about this at all? Okay. We'll start over here, then we're going to get right down here in the middle of the room. Sorry, you guys, the lights are very bright for us. It's hard to even see what's happening in the room. So, okay, fire away, sir. And direct your question to Asif, John, or to me.
It's mostly to Asif. So, how is the reception to the gospel amongst the Pakistani foreign workers compared to people in Pakistan?
Actually, when we start a ministry, we need a permission by the government. And then we can start a church, and we spread the gospel. We have no any problem by the government, but we have a problem from the grassroots level, from the extremist people. So that's why we can share the gospel from different ways, and even some of the organizations are working underground for the conversions.
Okay, so yeah, the people that are working as Christians in Pakistan or other parts of the world, they get the worst jobs. Literally, garbage collectors, sewer workers, street cleaners, that kind of thing. And it's because they're Christians. They're persecuted for their faith, and so they're not given any opportunities. The reception for the gospel is high. When Emma went over, they had hundreds or thousands of people that gathered to hear 4 teenagers practically talk about the gospel. And it's incredible, the hunger for the Lord and for the gospel that we see over there. Of course, sharing the gospel in many parts of the world is illegal in the sense that you cannot proselyte, meaning you can't intentionally share the gospel with a Muslim to draw them away from Islam into Christianity. But if you go and make a statement about Christ, the Christians in the culture can gather together, and if the Muslims come and listen, then they're allowed to come and listen because you're not intentionally going out of your way to try to evangelize them. And so the hunger is tremendous, greater than it is here in America, for sure. We're satisfied souls, and they are hungry. And to the hungry, every bitter thing is sweet. Amen? Okay, right here in the middle.
Hi, so I came here tonight just from general knowledge of how dangerous it is for women in general in Pakistan. And I guess I'm just wondering, especially in the Muslim community, how dangerous it is for women. If you have any things that you're doing, or if there's ways to help reach all women in Pakistan, because they are getting raped and brutalized I'm just curious if you have anything about that.
In terms, I'm not sure what, it's true, the women, kidnapping, by the way, of women, especially teenage women in Pakistan is common. And what happens is the,
Age does not matter.
okay,
All women are not safe in Pakistan. The especially child, under 10-year-old, 5-year-old, 50-year-old, 17-year-old, doesn't matter.
right. And what's happening is about 1,100 girls, usually somewhere 12 to upward, are kidnapped every year. They're raped by a Muslim man, forced into conversion, forced into marrying him. This is
I was going to say that's probably one of the most dangerous parts of it. If you're a young woman there and you're not already taken in marriage or espoused in marriage, they will just take you, and you are forced into a marriage with a Muslim man. And then, of course, if you convert to Christianity, they can kill you. In the Sharia system, it's punishable by death to turn from Islam to another faith. And so it's very dangerous for them. Culturally, I wouldn't say that it's just naturally dangerous for the women there any more than it is anywhere else in the world. Because if you're playing along by the cultural rules, you're fine. You know, you're a woman, you have a man with you, you're out in public, you're in the street, if you're wearing a hijab or if you're not required to, as long as you're abiding by the cultural standards, generally speaking, you're okay. But it's the single women and the Christian women that are at great risk. And so, is that a fair answer?
Yeah.
You speak English?
No.
Okay, where else? Okay, all the way over there. Do you have a mic? You do. Good, okay.
This question came in online. It's for Asif. How did you find Christ? Did you grow up in a Christian home?
By birth, I was Catholic. In 1994, 16th September 1994, I accepted Lord Jesus Christ by the Pentecostal pastor. And he was teach me many times, and he come to me and always follow me, and he spent time with me. He's an American guy. His name is Paul Smith.
Paul Smith.
Yes. So
I could translate that.
Yeah, Paul Smith. And he's an American guy. He was an American guy. And he invited me for prayer meetings, and he gave me a chance for prayer. And then accept Lord Jesus Christ.
I'm going to add.
Yes,
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Can I add to? One of the things that you deal with when you're going into underdeveloped countries or countries that have not been thoroughly indoctrinated with Christianity is bad doctrine. It's an inevitable problem. I mean, we have it here in America, of course, but there's a kind of a pool of all kinds of ideas about the Christian faith when you're in Pakistan, and there's no one there that's really giving them sound doctrine. And so they have a blend of Seventh-day Adventist and some Mormon ideas, some Catholic ideas. I mean, it's like Haiti. If you go to Haiti today, there's a merger between Roman Catholicism and voodoo. Yeah, voodoo. And so, and they don't see the problem. We see it in California a lot, that there's a lot of Hindu and Buddhist thought merged with Catholicism. And so there's no real clarity. And so, forgive me, Asif, but this is one of the things that we've been working with him on, is cleaning up the doctrine. Because you go from being a Catholic to some kind of a Pentecostal, whatever that means, to over there they've got Presbyterians and everything. And so you've got amillennial and dispensational, and it's everything.
Yeah, I have three type of churches experience. I'm grow up and by birth in Christianity in full gospel church, Pentecostal. But I joined the seminary, Presbyterian seminary, 2002-2005. And I got my Bachelor of Theology in 2005 from the Presbyterian seminary. But in 2010, I got my Master of Theology from the Pentecostal seminary.
Yeah. And then you came here.
Yes.
We wrecked
Now I
everything.
work with the Candlelight.
You guys have translated the dispensational
Yes.
book into Urdu?
Yes, right now we are 3 sermons translated and dubbing Pastor Paul's sermons in Punjabi language and Urdu language. And Pastor Paul's teaching we are translated in Urdu language. Yes.
And also you have the book of Hebrews commentary
Yes.
that we don't even have in English yet. They already have it published in Urdu.
Urdu.
And
Yes.
so, and this is of course very important for the pastors. And the pastors are desperate for good teaching and help. So, all right, Sarah,
Yes, please.
you still have your special
on the cast.
insignia. Yes.
This is another question that came in online.
Okay.
Lahore is notoriously harsh towards Christians. What kind of security will this church have? How did they get permission to build?
We have a permission by the government. We have a permission by the government.
We're registered as a formal church.
Yeah, what has happened is Candlelight, we have sent money to Pakistan, to the church, Candlelight Christian Fellowship, Pakistan, Lahore, and they have purchased property. Now, if some of you might remember this, they had a small slice. If you see the photographs of, well, you see some of it there. It's amazing that half of this was what they were able to obtain by trading the property that they had from a Muslim area
Yes.
to some people that had this little tiny piece of property in a Christian area. So they traded the two and they ended up with half of what you're looking at, more or less. And I said, you can't do anything with that. It's too small. What is on the other side? And so we were able to purchase for them the other half, which is still, I don't know how to give it in measurements because the way they measure, they don't use acreage and they don't use
Marlas.
square footage. They have a whole different calculus, but it is
Marla, 5 marla.
5 mala. Yeah, they all know what that means now. See, it's
Like
5 mala.
1150 square foot.
1,150 square feet. That's it. But they're building it 3 stories tall. They'll have a balcony area with a gallery and
Yes.
so classrooms. And it's amazing what they can do with a very small space. I mean, we think about that and it's unbelievable. Keeping in mind that in the same city of Lahore, you have the Christian culture in abject poverty next to skyscrapers. It's like Bangkok. You know, if you go to Bangkok, Thailand, you've got these massive structures with businesses that are making billions and billions of dollars, and just around the corner, open sewage running and children naked playing in garbage heaps that are living in shacks worse than tents. And so this is the way it is. If you've ever been on the mission field, you see this. It's just a bizarre thing to experience. But we sent the money with the arrangement that they would have to provide us a title deed in their name, not ours, but in their name in English. And so that we would be able to read and see the documents. And so we actually have those documents. They have the title. In Pakistan, once they own it as a church, it's not privately owned, it can never be anything but a church again. And so this now belongs to Candlelight Christian Fellowship, Pakistan. I want to make you aware, this is not Idaho Candlelight's property. It is theirs. And so we're looking at, helping them. And we keep throwing money at this. I mean, it's difficult. And I want to digress for a minute. I know you guys are saying buy a brick. Right now, I want you just to be thinking a little bit more on the support for Asif section. But there's a lot going on right now, and I feel like we're turning your stomachs because every time we talk, we're talking about we need money for this and we need money for that. We don't need money. Let's just pause right there. And I will explain a little bit more about this as we work our way forward. What we want is for you to be able to be participants. And so, if we're buying chairs, at this point, the church is strong enough that we can just write a check and buy the chairs. but we want you to be able to participate. It's your church, and it's enjoyable. And so we don't want people to feel pressured, but the last thing we want to do is make you feel like every time you walk in the building, we're asking you for money. But some people, it's like, man, I'm all about missions. And other people say, I'm all about chairs. And somebody else says, I'm all about air conditioning systems and new roofing. I mean, everyone has a thing. And so we just want you to know what we're doing and get involved and be a participant in it. But this $70,000 project now is of interest to me. I didn't know about that until Sunday when you brought it up. We originally heard about the roof. They wanted to be able to build a roof even over the dirt and lack of interior structure so that they just had a place to meet, because they lost the location that they were renting, which you saw a couple of pictures of, where they could meet, and all of a sudden the church became homeless. And so they wanted to do something, and so we sent money over there for them to start building a roof. And now with the designs, which we've seen the blueprints, they've had an architect work on it. It's amazing. They've done really, really well. And so I'm interested in this. And, there's a lot probably that we have no time to share right now about the things going forward. But I think that this is something worth our investment in our time. But my most important focus, I have to admit, is Asif and Shakila and the children. Our commitment was to them. That does not mean that we have not, because of their presence here, taken a very strong interest in what is otherwise going on through his ministry. And frankly, guys, we could give every dime we have away, and it would just scratch the tiniest little surface of the big needs in the world. But if we can take on one project and be a part of that one project, it's every church doing one little thing, and all of a sudden you're making some great differences. I think I saw a question over here. Can you get a mic over there really quickly? And that'll be our last question for the night. And while you're waiting, I need one man, single man, to go to Israel. You have to pay. I know. I could tell right away because of your earlier statement of the way you're living in the 90s. What you should be saying is I'm like a hippie living in the 60s, but you're too young to understand what that means. All right, we'll talk about it. But what happened, let me just explain this very briefly. We had a single man that was in a room, and he needed a roommate because it costs more money to go by yourself. So we made an announcement for a single man to join him, and we got two. And so now we need another one. And so if you know somebody that wants to go to Israel, we do need another. There's still room for other couples, but we're looking for that one man that wants to share a room with another man to be able to make this an effective thing. But you're an anxious fellow, and I appreciate that. All right, last question of the night.
Maybe this is esoteric, but I'm looking at the slide they had where the construction, all brick, and every decade or so you hear about massive earthquakes in that region of the world, and thousands and thousands die. And I'm just curious, I see some reinforced columns. I'm hoping that it'll be built in such a way that it's not going to,
it's pretty amazing.
Crumble with the big earthquake.
Yeah, if you look at the work that they've been doing, I've been kind of watching it. They have footings that are about 4 feet deep and about 4 feet squared, cubed in the ground already, just to build the 3 layers up, and then of course all the rebar. But hey, an earthquake will take it out. It's brick, and if there's enough of an earthquake, it's going down. And they don't have the luxuries of building insurance like we do, not in that environment. It's like living in Malibu. You don't have insurance. Sorry. All right, we're out of time. They asked us if we would do something unique with the tables and chairs tonight. And I had a sticky note that I stuck. Oh, here it is. So if we would, this is what, I wanted to mention something else. Yair. Do you guys remember Yair, who was here? And his dad was he was one of the hostages. His dad is on the list for the very next release of hostages. Yeah. That's pretty incredible. I wish we still had the pictures. We'll probably have to get them and put them up for you when we took them down to Gooey's. It was like they never experienced anything in their lives when he and the young gal that was with them were here. Please announce we are asking for 12 round tables rolled down to the gym, and then for people to vacuum the sanctuary. So if what's two? Two people to vacuum the sanctuary. So if you want to help out with that, you know the regular drill. But does that mean, where's Zandon or Jonathan? Okay, I see. Does this mean that we are doing all the rest of the tables in the normal procedure, but only the 12 into the gym? Okay, so 12 in the gym, the rest of them go away. Tomorrow morning we have a memorial service for Babette Banducci, so we got to get this room squared away and ready to go right away. Go talk to these guys in the lobby. They'll be out there by their table. Talk to Shaquila, and the kids might be around. Shaquila's over here, but if you want to make some contributions, please do. My concern, I really right now have a greater concern to just make sure that we're taking care of this young man and his family. Because of COVID and because of all the rules that keep changing, they've been here a lot longer than expected. And he didn't mention this already, but this is not his final destination. He has a vision to be somewhere in the world pastoring a church and proclaiming the gospel with many others. And so we just want to keep on supporting him and do the things that God has called us to do. A lot of things to discuss. We'll see you next Wednesday night, you Wednesday people, and see you Sunday as we continue our studies in 2 Corinthians, the rabbit trail of the present hour. So God bless you guys. Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for Pastor Asif and Shaquila and their family. Thank you for John and Carol. None of this, we give you all the glory, but none of this would be happening if it wasn't for John and Carol, and tracing all the way back to Richard Wormbrand. And Lord, thank you so much for the testimony of the seed of the church and the blood of the martyrs, and the testimony that we read about in Tortured for Christ and the pastor's wife, and the amazing, amazing things that you have done in multiplication of ministry because of one person. And Lord, we thank you for the multiplication of ministry that's happened because of Pastor Asif and the things that he's doing and the seeds that he's planting. Help us to know how to best serve at our isolated and distant place where we just don't really see and connect to the real needs, sometimes the real needs of the whole world. And so, Lord, use us for your glory, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you guys.
Thank you so much.